25 major reef fish dealers in Honolulu ship out 1 million yellow tangs a year. They refer to Hawaii reef wildlife as livestock. Their warehouse is huge. You could drive all the way around and you wouldn't know what it was. At any given moment, there are 27 million reef wildlife individuals in the aquarium pipeline. The pipeline begins at the point of capture in a net, and it ends when the fish goes belly up in a home
very
aquarium.
revealing,
Then the net comes from the home hobbies.
I guess
That's
called
how the
expose
system
on the
It's like
sort of the tropical fish aquarium business and how they're just devastating this one part of the Hawaiian coast, the Kona coast, known as the Gold Coast, because of all the amazing tropical fish. But of course, as they're just taking these fish away, and some great photography, like this guy, some crazy aquarium guy attacking someone, taking pictures underwater. But seeing how the coral reefs are just getting devastated. And then you sort of follow mostly this one guy, Snorkel Bob, who's trying to get legislation to, make it, illegal to take stuff from Hawaiian floor. And I think they were close to getting that, but it got vetoed by their governor. So once again, money conquers all. But you can see the little baby steps of what they're getting done, and to see these beautiful shots of these beautiful fish was amazing.
It's an environmental film that talks about the aquarium fishing industry. This documentary talks about the dark side of the industry and the impact that it has on tropical fish, the coral reefs, and Hawaiian culture as well. There was a lot of really devastating information in this film. However, I thought it was all very important, and this is a topic that we shouldn't shy away from talking about or learning about. I really appreciated the wide variety of people that they interviewed for this film. We got to hear from marine biologists and former pet store owners and Hawaiian locals, and it brought a lot of depth to this documentary. I also liked the lighter things like the beautiful images of the ocean and just information about the fish too. Like, we often think of them as just pets to keep in a fish tank in our homes, but they are really creatures that have feelings and personalities, and they deserve to be left untouched in their natural habitat. This is such an important film, and I think that everybody should watch it and learn from it.
I think it does a great job at getting its point across and making a compelling argument. I think that the stakes are established pretty early on, and there's a lot of good reinforcement of that throughout. Just kind of keeping the stakes really high, which makes it so compelling, because it does feel like very much life or death. And the main guy, I forget his name, he's very articulate and very animated, and he's easy to watch. And overall, I thought it was just a really strong short film. I loved all the B-roll. I love the sound design. I think technically it's a very well made.
It's a very eye-opening film for me to watch. And I think the film is very aptly named because the practice of collecting marine wildlife from Hawaiian reefs and just our oceans in general, just for the sake of public consumption and for keeping them as pets, that is a very dark hobby, and this film showed me that. And it illuminated for me that not only is wildlife being harmed and endangered, but also Hawaiian culture and the practices and the environment and culture of indigenous peoples. And it shows that it's not only our wildlife, but it's also our people that are hurting from this. It is a very heartbreaking, but I think necessary watch that I would recommend to a lot of my friends and family.
It was a really eye-opening film for me personally. I felt that it was extremely effective to focus on the micro of Hawaii and what's happening legislatively there, but to repeatedly pull us out into the larger global context of this industry and show the magnitude of the issue through the fact that it is happening all over the world. I also felt that it was a good strategy for the film to try and reach people through speaking about and teaching on the emotional capacity and the social structures of fish, because it's something that I think a lot of people either can easily ignore or are not aware of. And it really lends itself to the call to action in this case, and reaching people on an emotional level with this issue, because as the film shows, this is something that is currently illegal in Hawaii, and yet it is still happening. And I think that this film is really important, because without more support and more outreach, the ultimate goal simply is not being achieved.
It's very informational and educational about fish. It has both current and archived footage from years or a decade ago.
Overall, I think that this was put together really well. It had a lot of information. It was really educational. I can definitely admit that I am one of those people that I've never had a fish tank or anything like that. None of my friends have ever had. And it was one of those things that I didn't really think about. Probably just because I have never really interacted with one, seen one outside of movies and shows and things like that. But once you spend the time and think about it for a little bit and do any kind of research into it, it makes a lot of, like, everything that they're saying, none of it was surprising. Once you spent a little bit of time thinking about, like, the fact that these fish have to come from somewhere, how do they get to these stores, how do they, like, all of those things, once you spend a little bit of time thinking about the, like, how do we get there? How did this come to be? Where are these fish coming from? I think that once you start to kind of follow the thought through, everything that they're saying makes a lot of sense about needing to put regulations on this, needing to have some sort of enforcement, real enforcement about it. And it wasn't just, like, educating about, like, where these fish come from. It's also, like, how much hard work they've put into it, the different victories and setbacks they've had, how everything is kind of progressing. And it wasn't just about, like, Hawaii. It was about these different places around the world. It's about these different reefs and these different ecosystems. And it did a really good job of showing how interconnected things are, which I think is the entire point that they're trying to make, is how interdependent they are on each other, the fish and the reef and the ecosystem, and how those things have effects, have reaching effects. And I really enjoyed it. I thought they covered so much information, but they did it in a way where they didn't just stick with one topic for too long. They was, like, overview of different things, giving specific examples that they had found of, you know, what can happen if you've, you know, then protected land that did get kind of ravaged by I think I forget the word, it's like exporting or something like that. But they did a really good job. They covered a lot of information, but at the end of the day, I think it was really informative.
I'm heartbroken by this film. I didn't know anything about this. Thank you for making this movie. I did not know about where these fish came from and how traumatizing it is for them and how many deaths there are. And I'm just heartbroken by all of it, by the statistics, by the fact that the Hawaii legislature can't seem to get their act together to stop these people from doing this and hurting their ecosystem and their reefs. The fact that so many reefs are dying, and this has a great deal to do with it. These poachers who are taking these fish from their environments and their natural habitats. It's anger inducing, and it makes me sick to my stomach. And I wouldn't have known any of it if it hadn't been for this film. So thank you so much. It's beautifully shot. It's beautifully done. The underwater sequences are stunning and also heartbreaking all at the same time. There's so much here. it's an incredible movie. And it's really, really beautifully directed, beautifully written, beautifully edited, really well done. The music is fantastic, perfectly chosen. It's excellent. And I think everyone needs to see this. I'm so happy I never got a pet fish. I'm really happy that I didn't feed into that culture. That it's heartbreaking. So thank you. And I'm going to stop now because I could talk about this all day.